It used to be that trivia games were boring affairs where everything needed to be spelled correctly and the computer would type out gibberish for no reason. But as the 20th century drew to a close, we started to see developers experiment with different ways to ask pop culture questions. From the sarcastic nature of You Don't Know Jack, to the fake television game show of Buzz, to Microsoft hawking CNET on Xbox 360, there have been no shortages of unique trivia game shows released over the last 2 decades. Now, you can add Majotori to the list, as this clever little quiz takes everything you love about answering pointless questions and turns it into something completely original. Think of this as the trivia game version of a choose-your-own-adventure book. It's a single-player quiz that sees a trivia-loving witch named Laureate interfere with a bunch of people's lives in an attempt to grant wishes and make their lives better. It's actually really simple. She'll ask you a series of 9 questions, and depending on how well you do, the witch will either grant the wish or make the character's life a whole lot worse. There's the story of Wooly, an uninspired slacker who plays video games all day and wishes to become a famous YouTuber. Then there's Coney, who finds an injured deer in the woods and desperately wants to nurse it back to health. On a similar theme, Oliver is a dog that barks into the night and hopes to one day hear the moon bark back. And don't forget about Princess Ava, who's sad that she's not loved and respected like the people she reads about in fairy tales. And then there's Paka, an elderly woman who spends her days watching soap operas and worrying that the writers are gonna screw up the big wedding scene. Whether trivial or life-changing, Laureate is always there to offer the same deal. She'll grant the wish, but only after people play a short quiz. But there's a catch. It's not enough to simply get the questions right, because at the end of the round, the witch will turn the correct and wrong answers into X's and O's, place them in a big circle, and then spin them around like a game of roulette. If it lands on an O, the wish will be granted, and you can move on to the next story. However, land on an X and bad things will happen. Because of the roulette angle, the only way to guarantee a happy ending is to get all 9 questions right. Even if you get 7 or 8 right answers, there's still a chance you'll land on an X and ruin that person's life forever. Sometimes that doesn't matter, and the outcomes aren't all that important. But there are a few wishes that can end up being the difference between life and death. In the case of the suicidal Tsubasa, she'll either be granted wings and fly off away from her troubled life, or she'll fall 50 stories and never be heard from again. This $6 package comes with more than 1,000 questions that fit into a few simple categories: video games, animation, cinema, and a miscellaneous group that covers everything from history to world geography. While I'm pretty good at most of those categories, I quickly realized that I have no experience with anime, and found myself constantly guessing whenever those questions came up. Thankfully, you can limit the categories you're bad at, giving the more than 24 characters a fighting chance to have their wish successfully granted. As a quiz game, Majotori is fun, but limited. You aren't playing against other people, and the questions are straightforward with multiple choice answers. However, as stories go, I was fascinated in seeing what would happen to each character. There are more than 50 branching paths, and I had a lot of fun seeing the possible outcomes play out in the minimalist cinema scenes. There's nothing earth-shaking here, but the charming visuals and pop culture questions held my attention for quite a while. Though it probably works better as a mobile or tablet experience, Majotori is a delightful little quiz game with a nice range of questions and a fun theme. The roulette element can occasionally be maddening, and I wish there was a little bit more variety to the categories. But this is a trivia game with an original concept and a fun art style. It's one of the few quiz games to actually tell a story, and that alone is enough for me to recommend Majotori. Hey, thanks for watching our review. I sure hope I'm saying that name right. If not, I'm sure I'll hear about it in the comments. Also, before anybody asks, I'm working on a new episode of Trivia Gate. The 3rd episode was supposed to go up weeks ago, but things got busy. Real busy. There's been an avalanche of games to review, some of which have taken dozens of hours to complete. One of those games is Yooka-Laylee, which I'll be reviewing on Tuesday. We also have reviews of Loot Rascals, Red Death, Beat Cop, and Hollow Bunnies on the way. So I recommend you click the subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.